Welcome back to Have I Told You the One About? On today's show, I have a really fabulous human who I adore, and I'm thrilled that he's here. Let's just call him in on with our magic words, which are one, two, three, poof. It's Dusque, everybody.
Hello!
Hi, Dusque.
Hi, Cookie.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much.
I've got my story portal open and ready to receive. It's empty. You gonna magic trick something in there for me?
Yes, I will. Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Alakazam!
Wow! Dusk's story is my first time in a gay bar. Amazing. So, what happened?
Well, there's a little bit of backstory to how I made this happen. The first time I was in a gay bar, I was about 17 and very much underage. So, growing up, I had this uncle that we were very close in age. We were about 18 months apart. His mother was older when she had him. My mom was younger. They were mother and daughter. So we were always at their house. They were always at ours. And he would bully me and pick on me and cause me all kinds of trouble. And his parents would look the other way. He could get away with anything.
Oh.
And my mom would say, just stay away from him. As though I could, with how much time we spent over at their house all the time.
Right.
But I always came back for more because he was older, which automatically made him cooler.
Right.
And because of that, he was kind of my portal to all things bad and deviant, that a young person wants to explore.
Well, and who can stay away from that?
No, right. So, the first time I ever smoked a cigarette, the first time I tried marijuana, the first time I ever got drunk, the first time I ever saw pornography.
Wow.
Not just the Playboy magazine, but, the real thing with penetration, and there were men in it. So that was very exciting.
This uncle was a one-stop shop.
He was. And, he was a schemer and a planner, and he would come up with a way to do anything to get whatever he wanted. So he had this scheme around getting a really good fake ID that would be foolproof. And I don't know whether he thought this up on his own or heard about it somewhere. But he figured out that if you could get the information on someone that had died, you could get their birth certificate, and from there get some really legitimate, photo ID.
Right.
So we used to go to the cemetery pretty regularly as a family, and when we were up there for a trip, he got someone's name and information that would have been 21, that had died as a baby. And apparently the death certificates are kept in a separate place from the birth certificates. And this was, 40 years ago, before the internet, before
Right.
they had the kind of record keeping they do now. And so he managed to get all the information he needed to get this birth certificate, some other pieces of ID, went into the Department of Motor Vehicles and got a photo driver's license with this person's information and his picture.
For himself.
For himself.
Yeah.
And so now he had, the world's best fake ID. I mean, what's more legitimate than a state driver's license?
Yeah.
And so I wanted one, too.
Right. But you're even younger.
I was even younger. Well, he knew someone that had a birth certificate that they'd gotten from somewhere, from some person who was actually still alive and was considerably older, was like 27. But I wanted to give this a go. And so we arranged for this, secret meeting for me to buy the birth certificate off this person, behind a 7-Eleven. And I did it.
That's so shady.
Yeah, it was super shady.
You must have been scared.
I was terrified. I was more terrified, though, as I moved forward with this plot, because now the next step was that I had to go into the DMV with this information of someone who was still alive and was still living somewhere in our town. I think
Jesus.
I found him in the telephone directory.
Oh, man.
So Yeah. So I decided that I was going to go in because chances were good that they already had a driver's license at that age, and I was going to like apply for a replacement one and say that I had lost mine.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So,
You were so bad.
well, to be even more, devious, I guess, I had to skip school to do this because the DMV was only open,
Right.
weekdays,
Yeah.
8 to 5. So I forged a note from my mom so I could get out of school that
I
day.
stole the family car.
I actually, yeah, I did. And then because I was afraid that they would question me because this ID made me so much older, I got a fake mustache and I wore it to the DMV. It was a really good one that I got from like a man's hairpiece salon, with spirit gum that I glued to my face. It kind of almost looked real.
Oh, man. That's very impressive. That is next level commitment.
Yeah, I was afraid that I was going to get caught, and the fact that that fear didn't keep me from doing this, I don't know, because I wasn't the bravest person, but when I really wanted something bad, it was like, damn the consequences, I'm going to do it.
Right.
And I really, I wanted excitement. I wanted to go out and explore the things that I was going to be able to explore if I had this fake ID.
Right.
So I went to the DMV with the fake mustache and the birth certificate and a couple of other pieces of side ID that I'd managed to get with that. Went up to the counter, told them my story, and they took my photo. And, about an hour later, I left with a driver's license with my picture and someone else's information on it.
Wow.
And I was like shaking with excitement. I couldn't believe I'd actually done this and gotten away with it. So I ran to the car that I had used. It was parked underground. I was like scrunched down in the driver's seat, staring at this driver's license, not being able to believe I'd actually pulled this thing off. But I did. And so a little bit after that, maybe a week later, my uncle and I were going to go downtown to try out this great new fake ID we had. We had no idea like where to go or what to do. With as much as we had heard about things, we didn't know,
Right.
where to go.
Yeah. What's a good bar? Who knows?
What's a good bar? Where to go? What was happening? So
And which city are you in?
We're in Portland.
Okay. And Portland 40 years ago was a much smaller place.
It was much smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everything was just a lot less sophisticated, and everything was word of mouth. It's not like you could look things up or
Right.
like you were really dialed in. I mean, you just kind of had to find things out by osmosis. And so in this case, we were taking a bus to go downtown to go find some excitement. And my uncle asked some guy in the back of the bus, what's a really cool bar to go to? Where should we go? And this guy was like, oh, you guys should definitely check out the Embers. It's a really cool place, great dance music, blah, blah, blah. And so we said, okay, we figured out where it was, or he told us about where it was. And so we went there, and we were...
And neither of you are out of the closet, right? Like, you're not a queer kid yet, really.
No, and he is not gay.
And he's not gay. Okay, so you're just two young, presumably straight kids asking a random stranger on the bus.
For a bar to go to.
For a bar to go to. Okay.
And he just recommends this bar. We don't know anything about it, other than that, he's recommended it. And so, we go there, we show up, we're at the door where they check your IDs and take your cover charge or whatever. And there's this vibe, and they are looking us up and down like a searchlight. And not because they suspect our IDs. It's like we're fresh meat and young.
Right. And handsome.
It immediately became obvious that this was like a gay place. And neither of us said anything initially, but my uncle got this really funny expression, and he said, I don't like this. This is weird. Let's get out of here. And I, didn't want to leave, actually.
Yeah,
I
of
was very
course
excited,
not.
and I wanted to stay, but I couldn't say that because I was in the closet and I didn't
Right.
even really know what I was at that point.
Right.
So I made a mental note of where this place was.
Mm.
And then we went somewhere else. I don't even remember. We probably found some other boring straight bar and hung out there. And a week or so later, I came back downtown and I found this place and went there by myself.
Well, of course you did.
Yes, I did. So the disco part of it was upstairs, and I went in there and I was just completely overwhelmed by what I saw because I was this, 17-year-old kid, Catholic high school. I had no exposure to gay people or gay culture, what it meant,
Right. Yeah, because
So,
where would you find out about it? Right? There
nowhere.
were no magazines that 17-year-olds could get their hands on. There's no internet. There's just word of mouth, and if you're not out, how do you get word of mouth?
Right. I mean, all I knew was I was excited by boys. I was interested in them, and I had had some experiences in public cruising places already at this point.
Okay.
But I'd never been into a bar or a social environment where gay people were hanging out.
Right.
I mean, these hookups that I had were very much, few, if any, words were exchanged behind a bush, bing, bang, boom. So
Right.
I was precocious. I was looking for adventures. I was curious. I wanted to see what it was like.
And there's such a big difference between gay places, like public places where you could have gay sex because nobody talks,
Right.
and a bar where you could go in and then people are socializing and they have personalities and you know, yeah, they're
And where you
they're more real.
and you can see what they look like.
Yeah.
It's not like in the dark where somebody's just in jeans and a t-shirt. I mean, when people go out,
And a cat
they're
pulled low. Yeah.
dressed up to go out, and they're sort of in whatever their culture is.
Right.
And so I didn't know much about gay culture. We had a handful of gay bars in town, but this was the biggest one that had the dancing, and this was the height of disco. It was like 1979.
Right.
And so, I went up the stairs, I got in, I walked in there, and I saw like every type of stereotype, I guess, of, gay archetype that there was. There were
Drag
giant
queens.
drag queens
Yeah.
with huge hair. There were people in leather. There was all of it.
Right.
And so I was kind of standing there dumbfounded, and some guy in a leather harness immediately came up to me and asked me to dance. And I was really caught off guard because I'd never danced with a man before, and it felt kind of weird.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so I felt like I wanted to do it, but if I did it, it had to be like a song that I knew and I liked. For some reason, that was really
I'm not
important.
dancing to just anything.
Right. I mean, now I dance to, somebody rattling some tin cans, but I was so nervous and so inexperienced. That was just the first thing that popped in my head. I was like, no, I need to wait for a song that I like. And he was like, okay, whatever, and he walked off. And so I went and ordered a beer and kind of sat around for a while. And eventually that song Funky Town, which was very popular, came on. And I really liked it. So then I jumped up and I ran around and looked for him, and I couldn't find him.
Oh geez.
And I couldn't find anybody that looked like I wanted to ask them to dance. I mean, for one thing, I was too scared, and
Yeah.
also I wasn't really interested in the drag queens. I mean, I wanted somebody that had a big mustache and looked like looked like a man.
Right. Yeah.
So, anyway,
I don't take that personally. I know exactly that feeling. If you're in a
well,
gay
I
bar
mean,
for the first time, you want your daddy to come over and show you a thing or two.
that's
You
what
know,
I wanted. I mean,
Somebody
my
whose
taste-
fingers you can smell after.
Oh my god!
Or before, right? Let me. Okay, you're clean.
Well, that's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole
that,
other conversation. I'm sorry, I'm getting us sidetracked.
No, I mean, I didn't even know what top or bottom was. At that point, I wasn't even thinking about like anal sex. I mean,
Right.
I knew about blowjobs. I was kind of interested in that, maybe making out with somebody. Just the idea of body contact was like super, super exciting. I just
Yeah.
wanted to like touch somebody that had, hair on their body. Just, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Well,
so,
a kind of the early innocent sexuality, right? Like you don't know where
right.
everything's supposed to go. You're just interested in some kind of warm intimacy.
Right, but you're
Yeah.
terrified
Yeah.
because there's so much danger associated with it. The danger of getting caught, the
Yeah.
danger if you go home with someone or leave with them, what's going to happen.
Yeah. All those
And
unknowns.
yes,
I was
and so,
talking with Keystone about how much risk we put ourselves in as young people, like 40 years ago, because we didn't know anything and you're desperate to find out. And the only way to find out is by doing things you've never done before with people you don't know. That was your option, was
right,
experimentation with strangers. And how scary is that?
it's very scary, but when you want something really, really bad, and also I think when you're young, you have that sense of you just don't think anything can really happen to you. You're
Yeah,
sort of invincible, even though you're scared that something will happen to you. Maybe it's more like that you're going to get in trouble or beat up or robbed than that you would get killed,
right.
which all of those things are a
Or
possibility.
assaulted, or yeah, yeah,
But all I knew, I mean, even just the idea of getting outed, I mean, I remember once I started having these encounters and went into some bars, I was terrified that someday I'd be on the street with like my parents or some straight person and that someone would acknowledge me from one of these places and that I'd be busted. I mean,
yeah,
I had no concept of what it would be like to come out or be out at that point. Everything was very, very, hidden.
yeah.
And so I actually spent the rest of that evening kind of hiding, lurking in the shadows of this bar, nursing my beer, just observing all the people that I saw there. And it took me a while to sort of warm up to that scene to get to the point where I, was comfortable enough to interact with people.
Mm-hmm.
But the first time was just all about having that experience of being in a room that was full of gay people, most of whom presumably were old enough to be there, and I was, very underage. And
With your fake mustache.
yes, I mean, the whole thing was very exciting, but it was very scary. And I think the most interesting thing is what I was willing to go through to get there.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what happened. And
That
my first
was
time in a gay bar.
my first time in a gay bar by
Yes.
the amazing Dusque. I love that story. I remember the first time I went to a gay bar, I was in Toronto and I had actually had a boyfriend. I went with my boyfriend. We'd been together in the closet in my hometown for 2 years. So I'd had a whole, like, I knew I was gay and I had a boyfriend and we had sex and we moved to the big city to go to university. And I had a step uncle. It was my stepfather's stepbrother, who was a year and a half older than me. That's so funny. I didn't even think of that. And he brought us to a gay bar for the first time. And I remember before I walked in those doors being completely terrified because I just didn't know what a gay bar was going to be. And I was 19 and out for 2 years and was with a gay person showing me around. And I was just drenched in sweat because I was so scared. And when I walked in, I was like, oh, it's just another bar with, some drag queens and people in leather. But they're just people in there. I don't know what I expected, but I had, two people with me and I had a cohort. And I just remember that the huge pressure before I went in, the like of being, I don't know what, like just the fear of the unknown, right? And
Right.
how enormous that is. Not knowing is so terrifying. And then you get on the other side of it and you're like, oh yeah, gay people go to bars and they order beer and they drink them. Duh. But I
Yes.
can't imagine going through that alone with fake ID and a fake mustache in a downtown I didn't know. I can't imagine that. Like, what a hero you are. Really, in
Well,
lots of ways. That's a hero story.
it's it's just really interesting when it's hard to fathom probably for someone younger that doesn't have to jump through all those hoops just to have a social experience with gay people. I mean, we had very few safe places where we could go. There were no hookup apps. There was no internet. You either met people at some cruising spot like a park or in a bar.
Yeah.
But a bar was the one place where you saw gay people really in their element.
Right.
I mean, in a small town, not like today where drag queens are on TV, people weren't walking around on the street in their, gay attire.
Yeah.
But when they were in a bar and they felt safe, watching people be campy, hearing people say, "Oh, girl," and all that stuff was kind of off-putting to me at first, and it was scary.
Mm.
So I remember thinking when I was there that first time, well, is this what this life is like? Do I have to be one of these archetypes? Do I have to be a drag queen or somebody that wears a leather harness? Or, I just figured these were the options and this is what the life was like. And it was very exciting. And yet, it seemed kind of limiting, like you had to fit into a certain type, and I wasn't interested in that. So, just trying to navigate all that, trying to figure all those things out, just the culture, when you've had no exposure whatsoever, no books, no shows. MTV wasn't even out yet. I mean, that was kind of groundbreaking when you started seeing all the sort of gender blending performers, people like Culture Club, all of a sudden it became not so bizarre. And it was starting to become more acceptable to see people in less, restricted. Right.
Yeah, that's so amazing. Well, I love you so much. Thank you for coming to my show to share this, Dusque.
Thank you, Cookie.
Do I have a photo here from somebody? I think I do. Hang on. I forgot to preload. Where is it? Here's my friend. Did I show this one? Shit, I don't think I did. Oh, no, I did. Never mind. Okay, I don't have one. Oh my God, who cares? I'm just delaying. So you can like this page. Thanks for the people who liked Dusque's story already. It was an amazing story. Everybody should like this page, bitches. You can take a selfie with Dusque. I'll get out of the frame. Smile, Dusque. Yeah, you want a picture with that face. You can subscribe to my channel. You can also click the notification bell and it'll tell you whenever I'm going live, which is 8 p.m. every night, Pacific time. And whatever, I don't know who's on the show tomorrow, and so we'll just see everybody then. Dusque, do you want to give them a big kiss out before we leave? Gorgeous. Bye, honey. Thanks again.
Bye.
La 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 la. Have I told you the one about